So we are glad to host today Daniela Patti, who is co-founder and director of the Utopian organization based in Rome and Vienna. We asked her to, on the one hand, present her book, or their book, Funding the Cooperative City, but on the other hand, to have a conversation about the topics that are interesting for initiatives also in Maribor and around Slovenia that are struggling with the same, let's say, problems or similar problems that are presented in your book. So, please.
Thank you very much.
Start with the conversation.
Thank you. So thank you very much for being here this evening. I'm very happy to be here. I've been in Maribor, I think, last time about 10 years ago. And I see that there's, I don't remember that this place was here, and we were hosted in a conference in Casino today, which also seemed a very nice project, and I was told that there's a lot of things happening in the city. So I'm curious to know a little bit about it. So maybe I would ask you, before I had a very nice introduction from Michael, can I ask you maybe, because there's not so many, just very quickly to just go around to know who's in the room, so we have a bit of an idea of who you are. And not from Marco, but Pedro. Marco just introduced himself.
Sociologist and translator.
I'm Adam. I'm from IPoP as well. My name is George as well.
I'm from Zagreb, Croatia, but I study here architecture.
I'm a Skador's architect, member of my group.
Member of
My group.
Initiative.
It's a local initiative here, Marco?
I'm in Ljubljana.
Okay, I'm in Ljubljana, okay.
Also from came together
Dario, I'm architecture student here from Maribor.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm a sociologist and architect from Maribor.
Hi, I'm Klemen. I'm from Housing Cooperative Zdrugator from Ljubljana.
Hi, I'm Peter Schenk. I'm an architect and assistant professor at the University of Maribor, Faculty of Civil Engineering, Transportation Engineering and Architecture, and I brought some students. It was not really compulsory, but they reacted well, I think.
We are glad.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paulina. I studied communication sciences and I'm doing a master's in urban sociology.
Carmen, urban planner. Currently I'm working in NGO Prostor, dealing with temporary use and renovation.
In Ljubljana or
Slovenia?
Slovenia, okay, sorry.
I'm Anna, I'm an architecture student.
I'm Tadej, and I'm also architecture student.
Me too, Tina.
Very, very happy to meet you.
Urban architecture student.
Urban architecture student. Zia, architecture student.
Marta, also.
Jos Grotar, Maribor Cyclist Network, and member of the City Council.
So, I'm Luca, photographer and landscape architect from Ljubljana.
They are architect part of it.
Okay, so that's nice.
I'm Urban.
I'm Urban. I'm also from IPoP. Architect.
I'm Marco, also from IPoP, and now not with my mouth full.
Okay, so that's nice. It's quite a heterogeneous group in age and not so much backgrounds, but that's nice. It makes it easier to speak to one another maybe for this evening in an informal discussion. So, thank you so much to the IPoP team for inviting me. I'm speaking on behalf of the work of a lot of people, as it often happens, as you know, in these debates, and we have some bodies. I have some more in my body that are interested, and maybe just want to pass it around just to have a look at it. So we recently, what happened was, my background, a few words maybe. Myself and the rest of the team, we're also coming from planning, and just like you, I'm an architect. My colleague Levent is a sociologist, and we work with other people maybe dealing more with communication or with civic engagement. And in the team, what we do is we try to maybe a few words about how we got into this topic a little bit. A few years ago, and this is I think the first time we met with IPoP, we had a project. Some of you were at the presentation this morning, right? So some of you know about URBACT. It's an EU program that deals with helping public administrations in developing more participatory processes. Anyway, we had a project with the City of Rome on reusing abandoned public properties on a temporary use basis, and we were working together with Bremen in Germany that had a long experience in this. And this was a really nice occasion for us to work with the City Council in the local communities, which was something that we had done already for some years. It reactivated some abandoned public properties, so we did, participatory mapping processes and starting to figure out how we could develop new models for these spaces that were no longer working. All pink, beautiful and nice, and we reactivated the space, and everything was very nice. And what happened was that the projects were run. For example, we had some projects like we had the reactivation of a semi-abandoned food market, so we got on board the existing vendors, we got them really motivated in working together with the local association and some local young start-uppers to start some initiatives. The project went on for about a year, all very nice, and the City Council changed, and the political agenda changed very much, and you need to for a public property, you need the permission of the public administration, unless you decide that maybe then you enter in a sort of conflict and use the space. But if you want the permission and you don't get the permission, this meant that there was a lot of conflict around this and eventually the interruption of the initiative. And this is not the first time that it happened to us in projects that we were involved in, and this is not the first time that it happened in a lot of projects of other people we were in contact with. So this is how we started questioning a little bit, how can there be a stronger autonomy of community-run spaces? If you have community in a space, like here, and maybe seen as not everybody's from Maribor, maybe Andrei, after we could join the discussion, you could say a few words of this space as well.
Sure.
Thank you. So we started questioning a little bit what was the model, how could we get people on board? And one of the things we do is we have a lot of meetings a bit like this, where it's not just me talking, but maybe we're all talking and we're all exchanging a little bit our experiences. Maybe you're from other cities and you explain a little bit how's it going, and I hope that this will be a little bit the discussion later on. And so we organized, we got a funding from a program called Advocature, in which we were also together with IPoP, so we've been meeting along different roads over the last couple of years. And we started having this project that was looking into what were the economic and organizational models of community-run spaces. So some spaces managed to find an autonomy and a stability. How do they do that? That was our very basic question, not coming from an economic background at all. So it was really like a curiosity. If we wanted to do it, how could we learn from it? And so in our work, what we do is that we work with public administrations on a sort of consultancy or support level, but we also work with like civic organization, and we try to collect the input and bring it as a sort of EU discourse for what we manage. So all of a sudden it was like, okay, this is an issue, and we have the impression from the conversations we had with other people that it's not only something that is happening in Rome, or not only happening in Budapest, or not only happening in some cities. It's something that is happening more or less everywhere. So we did an open call, and we received actually a lot of, we received like 100 stories from, it was very nice, from all over Europe. The little dots you see are the little black circles, are stories that we received. Some had more advanced economic models than others, so some were really, really interesting, and we said, well, you know what? We organized 3 workshops, one in Budapest, one in Rome, and one in Madrid. And we said, let's organize a workshop, let's invite these people, and let's meet with the local NGOs and local initiatives in the cities we are in, and let's try to have a bit of a discussion about what what are the models? And so we had all sorts of types of workshops, events, and lectures. I'm sure you're very familiar with the format, so I don't really have to tell you all about it. Finally, what comes out is a book. The book is therefore, it's edited by me and Levente, my colleague, but this is a book that is actually telling the stories of all the people we met throughout this, let's call it, journey around Europe. So it's mainly predominantly interviews and some articles from some people that are maybe specialized on some aspects, such as crowdfunding or ethical banking, and they try to explain a little bit to people that might not be specialists. None of us in the room here have an economic background. A little bit trying to help and explain a little bit how these mechanism works. And so at the end, what we came up with is these are the case studies that we have. It's not covering Slovenia yet, so we really hope that you will share a little bit of stories and that we can put them also online, because the book is available for free in paper for the copies we have, but it's also available for a free download online, and we also have it as on a sort of blog in an online magazine with articles. So if we can't put it as a print now. Please don't get me to do more editing of the book at the moment. For a long time I don't want to change the book for a while, but we would be very happy to receive also stories of what's happening also here in Slovenia. So I'd like to tell you, for today I'd like to not bombard you too much, hopefully, and just tell you 3 aspects that were the chapters of the books that we thought might be something that is relevant for you. So one aspect that is the basic starting aspect was accessing money. How do you get money? And especially, how do you get money? I'll clarify, it's not just like, the lottery, but how do you get money, for example, for a community space to buy the space? Or if you don't buy the space, if you have, for example, a long-term lease with the owner, that could be private or public, what are the agreements, what are the aspects to be careful about? In the accessing capital, there are different aspects. There is crowdfunding. I'm sure you all got some friends crowdfunding for whatever their project is. There are different forms of crowdfunding, like investment-based crowdfunding, equity-based crowdfunding, which means that people also get a return on their investment. This is a bit of a more sophisticated financial setting, but it's something that is also worth exploring, because a lot of projects we met had experienced that. But what I'd like to tell you is, of the projects that some of you said that you're involved, is anybody the owner of the space? No, nobody's the owner. Okay. So that's interesting, because that's actually, we noticed that there are different approaches in different regions. So if you also in Italy, also in Hungary, nobody was really an owner of a space. Everybody was usually renting and having a very complicated relationship with the owner every time they were trying to put the price up, because maybe the space is becoming a bit more attractive. Also thanks to all the input that the local community put into the space. So this is the story of ex-Rota Print. This is an ex-industry of printing machines in Berlin, in the Wedding neighborhood. This was at the time a not particularly wealthy neighborhood, but as you might know, Berlin, a lot of neighborhoods in Berlin are becoming increasingly more hip, and this means that the real estate prices go up. In combination with this, the city council was selling, because some years ago, they were, surprisingly, even though Germany is a very wealthy country, the municipality is practically bankrupt. So they had to sell it was decided that they would sell a lot of their properties. Anyway, this property, without giving you all the details, you can read the interview for all the details, but this property goes on sale, and the local community that was already renting the spaces inside saw in that the opportunity, saw like 2 ways in front of them. Either they get kicked out, or they try to bid for buying the space. Now imagine that this space there were some artists, there was some Turkish-run little enterprises, such as a carpentry shop, or there were some classes for German for foreigners. So we're talking about very normal people. There wasn't highly, great experts on financial settings or anything like that. And what is interesting is actually that they actually managed it. So they are owners of the space nowadays, but they managed this thanks to a very interesting cooperation with ethical foundations. There are in Germany and Switzerland some foundations that actually invest to take off the properties of the real estate market. And if you have the patience, maybe I would get you to hear directly from let's see if technology supports me. So please be patient, I will get there. So I explicitly, no. Where do I find the browser here? Okay. Less complicated than before. Ah. Okay. Yeah. Are you actually going to hear it? Well, it's more or less written. Can you hear? So I will, meanwhile we get the technology working, thank you, Ray. Then I'll just say a few words. So basically what these foundations do is that they do an agreement with the local communities, and the foundations become owners of the land and the communities become owners of the building. Obviously what means is that the communities will not be able to make any big decision without the foundation, which means they cannot sell if in 10 years' time the founders of the community initiative decide to sell. They won't be able to, because the foundation has it in their statute that projects cannot be sold and they have to remain within their original ethical program. Which means that this is a way of getting. Do you need a hand?
We're not talking about how we invest our assets, then what we do with our revenues. So all money we get, we invest in land, building sites, or together with groups, we purchase an old building which has to be restored. And we keep owning the land, and the project takes over the building. We do it by a land lease contract, very well known from England. The German churches do it a lot. Of course, we get a land lease fee that enables us to do our work. The foundation is growing. We started with only 70,000 euros, and we do nowadays have 7.5 million own capital. Nowadays, with an interest at around about 2%, it's not so very attractive, only commercially it's seen, to pay a land lease fee of 4%. So it's an idealistic step. It's really not that we only help the project, but it's vice versa. The projects are also helping us and paying into that solidarity fund and building up a structure for the next project.
Managed to hear there at the back? Not so much. Yeah, okay, all right. Well, you're just going to have to get the link and listen to the interview with the Stiftung in more detail. I'm not sure whether should we try this thing of showing you the videos, or should I tell you about it? You tell me how you prefer to do it. Do you understand the videos, or?
Let's try one more.
Let's try one more. Okay. Let's try one more. So maybe then, if you have the patience, what I would like to tell you about maybe is directly the interview with the artists that actually in the end organize the community to actually buy the space of the. So you have on the one hand the people from the ethical foundation before, and this is actually the people that run the space.
Because we realized if we don't act, then the whole compound will be sold, and the whole thing will be loft living or something else like that to get money. We were able to buy the whole compound for a very cheap price in 2007. We had contact to the Foundation Trias, which has as a goal to secure land and provide that it's possible to get land out of the speculation. Trias was in the very beginning and made the contact to another foundation, the Edith Marion Foundation from Switzerland, and these two foundations became in a way in a negotiation how we should set this up. So the ground is now owned by the foundations and we own the buildings. So we can decide everything, what ex-Cooperative should be. We finance the renovation of the buildings. We decide who should rent there. And the main thing about ex-Cooperative is the heterogeneous use and the different scales of people and backgrounds. So there are designers and unemployed, there are migrants and craft and small factories. So this comes together to a really heterogeneous picture.
Was that a little bit better? Did that work a little bit more, even there at the back? Okay, good. So I think Las can explain this, the work that they did way better than we can, and you have the whole interview if you want also to read it for all the details. But I think it is, at least for us, and I don't know how it feels for you, but for us it was really interesting to know that the local community can actually buy the property, and what are the mechanisms for which it can secure the money. Now it's not so easy because how does this? Sorry, how do I get the power the PDF?
No, okay.
Here, no. Yeah. Sorry, yeah, we'll get that. Yeah. Yes, okay. So I don't know if you see here a little bit. Can you read it? Mm. So basically, they had the acquisition for 600,000 euro, which I mean I don't have it in my pocket right now, but for the real estate of 10,000 square meters in Berlin is actually, anyway, even though Berlin real estate prices are quite low, it's still a very good deal. This meant that they had an interest rate of, what the Trias Stiftung was saying is that basically they pay an interest rate for forever. Now this means that for in the initial period they pay 5% interest rate, and this is why they were saying nowadays after the economic crisis the interest rate on loan has gone down. So this is actually very expensive. You would get, if you had the credentialities, which you might not have, to go to a bank for a loan, this is anyway more expensive. But the added value is that you will pay 5% for the time, in this case for 25 years, and after that you will pay forever 3%. Why? Because this means that the foundation then has money to be able to reinvest on new community projects. So there is it's a solidarity fund, and the idea is that like this they have been able to invest on a lot of purchases. On top of this, and also once they were able to own the building, it was also easier for them to go, in this case, to a pension fund and get a loan to actually be able to do the renovations, which are extremely expensive because it's also a heritage protected building. So obviously all the renovations have to be done according to certain criteria, and it's a very long process. I mean, they're still working on it, and they will be still working on it probably for the next 10 years or so. So it's a very long-term project. What is interesting, and I'd like to share with you, because I think this is one of the issues to be, maybe I'd be curious whether you have something similar in Slovenia, because we got in contact with the German foundation for a community project we were supporting in Rome, because they were also trying to purchase, and we don't have anything similar in Rome. We have ethical banks, but they will not give a loan to a local community that doesn't have the credentials. And they answered that they would love to, they're happy to advise, but they cannot invest out of the geographical area in which they know, hence Germany, Austria and Switzerland. So that for us raised quite a complicated issue, because we just realized that there is no possibility for us in Italy, for example, to access this type of funding. And I'd be curious, has anybody of you directly or indirectly tried to access type of projects like this, or addressed banks in trying to support your community project? Maybe the co-housing?
Yeah, it's quite frustrating for us to listen to this kind of examples, because we have a similar problem. There are no such initiatives or foundations in Slovenia or foundations abroad who will be prepared to finance anything in Slovenia. We were 2 weeks ago at a conference in Berlin where there were a lot of examples like this for the housing projects, and they were all financing only in Belgium, France, Britain, Germany, maybe Austria. There is now one new bank, relatively new bank in Poland, I think, which is eager to provide funds for projects in Eastern Europe, but I can't remember the name. But they're interested because interest rates in Eastern Europe are much higher than in Western Europe. In Slovenia, for example, the credit for 5% yearly interest rate is something normal for business projects, not for the individual credits. So they are quite eager to come here, and they're selling this, that they're ethical, but basically they're looking for higher returns. And they're basically speculating. They're saying that we're prepared to invest in you even if you're not profitable, but the play for them is that interest rates are higher here in Eastern Europe than Western Europe. So yeah, like in Rome or in Italy, we saw these ideas, we know about them, but they're based on foundations or ethical banks which are non-existent. Except in Croatia now, there is one ethical bank that it started working, but it's similar. It's similar. They are able to work only in local environment, meaning Croatia, and they're not able to finance anything in Slovenia.
There were initiatives for ethical bank also in Slovenia, but it's not fun. They have not been successful yet so far. But I don't know if have you tried to contact it, Myron, or?
Yeah, we've met them in Berlin, okay. But the answer was that they finance something they are not thinking about. And also these big housing initiatives that we have, that they are like Urban Mont or something like that, they're only financing or are prepared to finance only projects in Western Europe. Even these smaller grants, like, I don't know, a couple of €1,000 for the project development, they're, again, only thinking about Western Europe.
I mean, we have been, Blaž Fabian, who has initiated cooperative, housing cooperatives in Slovenia, has been in contact with many banks in Slovenia, and it was not possible, basically, to get, let's say, convenient loans for this kind of project. So they simply don't have a product. It could be, they could have a product that could be useful, let's say, but the market is too small. So they don't develop this, I don't know how it's called, there's this type of product that could be, I don't know the name, but
Hypotheca.
No, that's classical. No, that's I don't know. It's some version of.
Bonds.
Yes, hypothecarne obveznice. Yeah.
To issue bonds on the property, basically, so that the bank issues bonds, people outside buy the bonds and get the return, so the bank is on the safe side.
Like community shares or something.
But it's not community.
It's not community.
It's an investment mechanism, how it's called, bond.
But now I think this equity crowdfunding is also not yet available in Slovenia, but this will be soon. This, as far as understood, this is the legislation is in the preparation somehow. So this will be soon available. Also because of the this crypto stuff. They, for their interest is very they are very interested, and that's very strong in Slovenia. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this is interesting because this is actually I'm not obviously familiar with the context in Slovenia, but this is something that actually came out in a lot of countries where we were. And it's not, as you say, I'm sure that there is an issue, for example, with Eastern Europe, but it's very similar also in Southern Europe. We have exactly the same problem. So basically, it's worth thinking about, and it's
in Italy, you have huge cooperative movements which is prepared to finance projects like this. Now there are quite a lot of housing cooperatives in Italy that are being financed through this cooperative initiative.
Actually, they're being financed, but without now boring you with the Italian dynamics, because the mechanisms that there are actually are starting up, and it's still at the very initial phase for Milan. But this is because Milan is the financial capital of Italy, and so there are banks that have return. Basically, it's a tax-free deduction, but it's only they actually really only do projects on a very local scale. So even within the same country, for bigger countries at least, there is an issue that even within the same countries, it's not able to get on board all the stakeholders. So I would like. This evening, what we were saying is we cannot. I don't want to kill you this evening. It's already late, and I'm sure you've already had a lot of inputs at university, at the conference, or at work today. So I don't want to kill you. So I would like to tell you another couple of stories, if you have the patience with me. I would like to tell you a story from a very, very interesting cooperative in Rotterdam. The book that we address is on three topics. So one is accessing capital, and I think the case from Berlin is actually quite interesting because it's a very elaborate case that has. They also did a very good analysis of their finances, so it's an easy story to explain to somebody. It's not work in progress with no data available. And there is another issue that is also, if we want to sort of become owners of a space, or if we want to run it on a more let's say in a more social enterprise way, we want to pay salaries to the people that are working. We want to be able to have buffer, maybe money aside to be able to help in case there are some difficulties. It also requires that we have to be able to organize ourselves in a bit of a different way. And I don't know, in your experience, this is actually something that is not so banal. A lot of community initiatives actually start having these massive internal conflicts and sort of implode because they can't find an internal agreement. This is not an easy task, and this is sometimes not a task that is fully addressed. So we thought it would be interesting to also share a few examples of some cooperative models that actually had something quite interesting and had also a very strong territorial impact. So, I would like to take you to Rotterdam, and it's the wrong slide. So I will take you to Rotterdam. Here we are. Africa, how many of you have been to Rotterdam? Okay, so have you been to Southern Rotterdam? Southern Rotterdam is one of the neighborhoods that is, let's say, upcoming now, but stigmatized as the poor part of the city where all the people working for the port used to live, and nowadays all immigrants live. So the sort of poor delinquency, you don't want to go there, you don't want to be investing there. So what happened is that there was a very interesting, it started as an artist project. Once again, a bit like Extra Print, by pure chance, there are actually artist-led projects that decided to initially start working on the local market. The local market wasn't working. So they started having some interventions, and from there, over the years, the project developed into a neighborhood-based cooperative that is working together with the local enterprises to create capital and know-how in the neighborhood to strengthen it somehow from the inside. So at this point, we can talk about it after together, but I would like you to hear the story directly from Annette. Let's see if
we try to stimulate the local economy in the area. We do this by looking at the existing talents that are in the area. We search for people with specific skills and craftsmanship, and we search for informal networks of production. And one of the things that we started doing was setting up cooperative workspaces. We try to change the flows of money in the city and also on a national level, and we try to sort of lock in these flows of money in the area. From all these different flows of money, the revenue, we divide it by 50% goes to our members, 25% is going back into the cooperative, and 25% goes into a fund for cultural or social projects.
So this is actually a really, really nice project. If you go to Rotterdam, take the time to also go to Rotterdam South, because it's actually extremely interesting what they do. So basically, they built up a cooperative at a neighborhood scale, bringing together all the local businesses. Up to here, I mean, these are stories that it's not revolutionary and absolutely impossible to imagine, but it's very interesting how they managed to organize it over the years, and I think it's worth sharing because of this. They managed to create a fund but the argumentation to the local businesses is the neighborhood is so stigmatized that your business resents of the fact in the neighborhood. So if we manage to pool together enough resources to reinvest in the neighborhood, we also have a say on how the neighborhood is going to change, because in other parts of Rotterdam what's happened is that I think you have a bit of this issue also in the city center of Maribor, is that everything has become so commercial that probably I'd be curious if the real estate prices have gone up, and maybe this means that maybe only certain type of people can actually access the market. So this is per se already quite interesting. But what is very interesting also is the fact that the cooperative, as they were saying, reinvests 50% of the budget on the members of the cooperative. So the shops in the neighborhood have a direct interest in putting in the money. 25% goes on cultural events and activities, because this brings people from all the city to South Rotterdam, where nobody ever wanted to go before.
Marketing share.
Exactly. Yeah. And 25% goes on reinvesting and building up new cooperatives, which is what she was saying when she was talking about the talents in the neighborhood. So basically what they have done is that they, by working originally in the market, they started really getting in contact with the neighborhood and realizing what the skills were. So basically they had a lot of people that knew how to do a lot of stuff but didn't have the certifications. So an example that they gave us was a lot of migrant background families, especially for example in a lot of communities, the women maybe would not so easily access the labor market, but they probably, because of also family traditions, would be very good at cooking, which, as you know, might not be really the strength in the Netherlands. And what they did is that basically they set up a catering company. So the cooperative built up in their community, in their space, a kitchen that is professional and standardized with all the criteria that are responding to all the hygiene criteria, and the kitchen cooperative can therefore, the catering cooperative can cook and provide services outside for conferences and for events. They can cook, and this also means that the kitchen is available also for the neighborhood if they want to have also big family gatherings or stuff like that. The kitchen is also available for them. On top of this, they have a cooperative that is dealing with the sewing. So again, the women mainly, they are very good in sewing by hand. And if you go in sort of high-level fashion, Jean-Paul Gaultier and so on, they were very proud that there is one in the video. One of the pictures is this dress hand sewn for Jean-Paul Gaultier. Jean-Paul Gaultier paid a fortune for that dress, and this means that then a big amount of capital came into the cooperative because of this. And finally, the other cooperative they have is for cleaning services. And it's interesting that this also enters in dialogue with the municipality, because the municipality has a lot of social housing, and they have to clean it. And what do? They do a big procurement, a big competition, to find a big company somewhere in the Netherlands that will take care of cleaning all their public property. And what they're bidding for is saying, well, what if in the neighborhood, we take care of the cleaning, which also means that we will do it better, because if we don't do it properly, we live in the neighborhood and the people will complain directly to us. So you also have the added value that not only you're creating local employment and you're keeping the resources local, but you're also ensuring a higher quality service. And this is quite interesting because of this process, the city of Rotterdam has actually started looking into how to change their procurement, because this actually, well, I don't know how familiar you are with this type of thing, but usually this type of thing would be just for the lowest price, and this meant that they had to start looking into also the social added benefit, which is worth looking into. Some of you said that you are in community organizations. That you are in community organizations back home. The last thing I wanted to say is Annette. So this is part of the work that we do, because why am I going around telling you everybody else's story? You know, it's like, find yourself something else to do. Why are you telling somebody else's story? The reason why we do this is because we think that it's very important, a bit like this evening, to share a little bit. Many of you, you've been to Berlin, but maybe some of you, maybe some of the students will not have the possibility or haven't had the possibility yet of going to Berlin to meet some of these initiatives. So we think it's relevant to share some of these experiences. But also, you're probably all people that are on a Thursday evening here at 7:30 discussing together, and you're probably very motivated people. Maybe not, I don't know. Maybe it's just because your professor dragged you here today. But anyway, we're very impressed by that nonetheless. But what we also do, part of the work that we do with our organization is also to, I wouldn't call myself quite a lobbyist, but we try to do advice to EU organizations. And what we try to do is to show the EU organizations what is being done by Annette and by many other cooperatives on the ground, because we try to push for the fact that if these small scale, because they are quite small on a global scale, initiatives manage to do such relevant things, imagine if they managed to get financial and political support to scale up. And this is why it's really relevant, is that it's not just me. I do the mediation, and I try to get, in this case, Annette in one of these EU meetings to tell herself what it is that they're doing, because this enables to have a dialogue. And so hopefully what will happen is that the new policies and so on will be partially also taking into account also what are the needs also on a local scale. So it's a long way to go, but we're working on it. And this is what we try to do, so to sort of bridge a little bit, because I don't know how you feel about it, but EU feels always very far away, and it's very easy to blame for anything that isn't working back home. But there is some good to it as well. So, oops. For example, in your initiative and so on, I mean, are you a neighborhood scale initiative?
No, we're completely new in this field.
Okay, that's good. Welcome. Okay. Can I maybe ask, Francesca, seeing as you're there, and when so I keep inviting people to speak when they're eating. I'm very sorry about this. No, but because some of you were not here this evening, if you fancy maybe saying a few words a little bit also about how you're organized with the foundation, with the social enterprise, because even though you're not managing specifically a space, as some of the cases we looked at, I think the entrepreneurial thinking and social enterprise thinking might be something that not everybody is totally experienced with, but it could be very interesting to know about. You?
Yeah, I run a foundation in Amsterdam. Maybe I come over there. It's called Cities, and
yeah, thank you. That way you can ask me to speak when I'm eating.
It's called Cities, and I started it when I was a student, actually. Because I loved urban development, I was very engaged, and I loved to not only read and write about urban development, I wanted to work with people. So we created this foundation made by two students, completely out of the blue. And from there on, we started making projects trying to analyze global urban development issues and developing local solutions. And by doing that, we worked a lot on analyzing local context and local problems, and we worked a lot in food-related initiatives, and we analyzed the food system. And we got support from national and local foundations to work on these projects. And while working on these projects, we worked a lot with people, and we worked a lot with the local network, economic, and like with everybody, and we developed some solutions which were very good. But then these solutions, they need funding, and if you are a small foundation, keeping on working on funding actually keeps you away from keeping on making the good work, because it's difficult, especially if you are an Italian woman in the Netherlands. Like, if you're not so connected, and woman. Anyway, so we decided to change a little bit the format. So the foundation would become the incubator of social enterprises. So what we did, we have like one example, and we're going to the second one. It's not easy, it's a very long path. So within the foundation, we work on analyzing and working with people on solutions. And then once we realize that these solutions are actually good, they work, we have response, people love them, and they could be scalable, we work on a business model, and we get private funding, but and we create a company, but the company is owned by the foundation. So there is always, like, basically what happens that the profit of the company go back in the foundation, and ideally in 10 years I will not have to apply for funds anymore. That's the long-term vision. And now we are at the third year with a local business supply electric cargo bike transport company. So we help local business to gather food with sustainable vehicles. So we are trying to make the food system more sustainable in Amsterdam, and that is developing very much since we started a collaboration with PricewaterhouseCoopers, which has always been, in my opinion, the devil. And then we won a Social Impact Lab Award, and they gave us 2 years of free advice, and they said, look, you don't have to be part of any startup program. I hate that. I hate the startup concept. So I was looking for help from professionals in making my idea a good business. And that's what's missing, I think. Not all of these initiatives. I think, as personally, that has been always my problem. I have an urban development background. I can have people at my level trying to help me with a business plan, but I don't have institutions that give me the tools to become a reliable, good, solid business. So PricewaterhouseCoopers last year gave us these tools. They said, you have 2 years free advice, that's the price. You can decide your pace, whatever you want. We give you advice on anything you want. So we remade the business plan completely, and now we are starting a crowdfunding campaign to get to the next level and be even more impactful in the city, and maybe scale up, you know, maybe. Like, also, we have a very social enterprise kind of approach. We want to prove that the company works and reach break-even in one city, and then we go to the next. Like, me and another, my partner is Fullogica, in Fullogica, and there's another woman. We have a very female approach to business development. We are very cautious. We made majestic mistakes in these 2 years, like monumental mistakes, but because we didn't have much resources, the problems that generated were very manageable. So that's also something to learn. Like, being small at the beginning when you develop innovation is the key, in my opinion. Like this lean startup, I don't know if you are acquainted with this like trend that there is now everywhere from Silicon Valley to Sweden to the Netherlands. Lean and mean startup models are destroying, first of all, the potential of investing on companies that have a reliable model, and the way companies are working right now, because you have to be basically very fast and grow fast and make huge mistakes and use a lot of money. Like, so that's one point. And the other work I'm doing is on waste, and we are developing a project that is well, it's nothing revolutionary, but it came by talking to people and why they were not recycling. So we are helping them to recycle by giving discounts in local shops. And this is becoming very well rooted in Amsterdam, and we are connecting it now with a cryptocurrency group of people that know a lot about cryptocurrencies to maybe develop it into the first cryptocurrency that actually give money to people that recycle. I don't know if it's gonna work out, but again, PricewaterhouseCoopers, now from the US, they love us and they said, you are a great case, we want to study you, we want to help you, and they have a pro bono project to help us develop the business plan. So I think this is the key. In my personal, professional career, it's like dancing with the devil at the same time, right? I know.
I wonder.
Yeah, but you should listen, like you should see what they say, and the nice thing is there is no prefix conditions for this collaboration. So I have principles, the foundation has principles, the foundation stands for something, and we decide. So it's not a prize or, I don't know, it's not like a program that you apply for and there are certain growth rates or that you have to compile to. So I think this exchange of, from my side, innovative approach, and from their side, the tools to make this approach into an Excel file, basically, is a powerful combination. And I don't know where it's gonna go, but I saw with Fullogica, the company changed completely, like from a hobby to a company that has a realistic plan, and we know where we want to go. And the point is, yes, we make profit, but the profit is for the companies, for the foundation, you know, like it's, I also have a little bit like, where am I going? Like, is it, because why do we have to scale up? Maybe that's the new modernity, yeah, the new post-modern society where it's all small and it doesn't need to scale up. I don't know. I always have a lot of, I'm very critical towards everything. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. Why do you think, how did you get in contact with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and why do you think they invest in you somehow? What's their incentive? Why would they do it to somebody else?
Okay, so I got in contact because I was looking for financing my startup, which is Fullogica. I was looking at Impact Hub programs, and I was running a company already. And all these programs were very clear. You take 3 months off of your life, and you come to our place for 3 months, and we help you make an investor pitch. That was the deal. And we take 8% of your company. I was like, I cannot do it. I have a foundation, I have another project, this is like I run this with other people. I'm not that kind of... So I looked into prices and like any kind of support initiative that I could find. And I found this Social Impact Award from PricewaterhouseCoopers. So I applied for it last year and we won. And from there has been a big snowball because I presented Fullogica at a global event for them, and I connected to the US people, and they told me why they like it, because first of all, they realized that if they keep on working on traditional business, they will be, like, soon there will be new, young consultancy firms that will eat a big part of the market. So they are looking at us as a case study to present in the future and to use, to be part of this new setup of, you know, circular economy and civic societal organizations. So they were very clear, like, yeah, we're doing this pro bono, but we're doing it because we want to learn how to work on this ourselves. That's pretty, yeah. And I think it's good. I think that's what's missing. Like, there is this division, you know, between people with a lot of amazing ideas and people that know how to make money. Why? Why? Why can we have amazing ideas on how to make money and do it in a fair way? like cooperatives are good also for that. So yeah, the Milanese approach.
We have I think you're Italian, right, Dario, or is it
no?
He was okay. I think you were Italian. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, neighbors. But yeah, there's this Rome-Milan dispute going. You know, the financial capital. They're always thinking about money. So we instead are the city where we have the Vatican and the national state. So we think about how you work with institutions, which is the last topic I would like to bring you to, if you still have some energy for me, and if I find the right slides. So, but I think it's interesting that it brings up to one of the issues that Francesca was questioning. Why do we want to scale up? That's a fair point. Do we want to scale up, or do we want to replicate in order to make the small scale stronger? But then we have to also be able to coordinate, otherwise the risks of becoming crazy atoms running around all over the place, and especially if you need to have, for example, a system. Just the discussion today, we were talking about resources and waste and so on. Not everything can always be done only at a small scale. So, and this is where very traditional, just as we can have for maybe consultancy, we have very traditional institutions for hundreds of years that have been taking care of coordinating things at a city scale, which are public administration. And in a lot of cases, I don't know how you feel about them, but in a lot of contexts, you think about, like, how do you imagine the stereotype of the civil servant? No offense in case anybody, I think, you're a civil servant? No, he's gone, okay. So we can speak freely. So how do you imagine the stereotype of a civil servant? Age?
55.
Gender?
Male.
Okay.
Overweight.
I didn't have that necessarily in mind, but okay.
Wearing velvet, which I love, by the way, but...
Okay. And probably...
Not working much and this kind of stuff, yeah. And doing Facebook on
cheating on his wife. I don't know, I worked in a marketing institution. I had this guy. Anyway.
Okay, it seems like you have some very clear characters in your head. Okay.
Name and surname.
Okay, so I see that somehow the stereotypes of the public administrations across countries more or less fit. But actually, they are the ones that have usually, even if not totally up to date, because they might have not had a competition to get new personnel for the last nearly 20 years, they hired at the time people that were specialized on a given topic. They have they own property and infrastructure that is relevant. I was told that in the city of Maribor, a lot of I think this is also a place, and I'd be curious maybe at the end maybe Andrei, you could tell us a little bit of, if you like, of the story of this place, because I heard some little pieces, but let me bring you to last trip for this evening, as I'd like to take you to Lisbon, and then we can come back to Maribor to discuss about things here. So, let's go to Lisbon. Lisbon, 8 years ago, gets a city council from the left-wing city council, who had a partnership of the socialist and the civic movement. This is a relevant piece of information because it does make a difference. It's not only administration, it's a combination of administration and political. And most contexts, this is one of the things to be taken into account. And what happens is that they decide, have you been to Lisbon? How many hands up who's been to Lisbon? Okay. So Lisbon is beautiful, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. But Lisbon, you've probably seen it, has a lot of poverty even in the city centre. So it's not like some cities that maybe you see that, or a bit like here, the city centre is super pretty and lovely, and then you move outside and you see, wow, not the horror. No, Lisbon, it's actually in your face, even in the city centre. Not that this makes a radical difference, but even us as tourists, we could see it. So they decided this was one of the main issues that they wanted to address as a city council, was how to address urban poverty in the entire city, not only in the city centre. So they decided to activate a project that is called BIP-ZIP. It's an acronym in Portuguese, but it has a funny name. I think it's easy to remember as a BIP-ZIP. What they do is basically they had 4 steps. They had the first step is analytical. Through analyzing data, through having interviews, they basically did a map where they could identify through a series of criteria which were the priority neighborhoods for socio-economic, cultural issues, which were the priority neighborhoods where one would have to work. Then, after that, they decided to launch a program that was basically a grant program for social startups, social enterprises, social projects, I better say, to be working on a given neighborhood. The deal is that it has to be at least 2 NGOs or organizations working in the neighborhood that is a priority neighborhood, and they will get €50,000 for 1 year. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's an amount of money for which if you're only doing it for the money, you won't do it. But if you're doing it, if you want to do a project and you're looking for money, €50,000, you can get something done, especially because Lisbon is not a super expensive city, unlike maybe, I don't know, Amsterdam or Helsinki or something like that.
And you can use them for co-funding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what happened is now the program has been running for 5 years. And there's a very high success rate in the neighborhoods. They've started hundreds of projects. They have a budget of €1 million per year on this project. I mean, you imagine how much is done. And I would like you to hear one of the initiatives in Lisbon that has been that has not only with this, but also with this budget, been able to fund this one. The 4 steps of their strategy, because you're all maybe architects or urban planners, that might be relevant to know, is then that after that what they had is that they started developing some local offices of the administration in the priority districts, so that they would be able to advise at a more decentralized way the NGOs working on the ground. And finally what they did, also let's not always talk badly about the EU. The EU has recently started a way of managing their EU funding. Everybody talks about the EU funding and how badly they're spent, and they only spend it on motorway and corruption. I don't know if this is the issue in Slovenia, but in a lot of contexts this is what is always said. Well, they started a thing that is called community-led local development, and it's a budget that has to be co-managed by the public administration and other stakeholders. So they're now, on the basis of this experience, they set up this organization for the management of the EU funding. And I would like you to meet Tiago, who can tell you about one of the projects that was funded from BICZIP, is Largo Residencias in the city center, one of the priority neighborhoods. They developed a responsible tourism hostel and artist in residency. Obviously, the budget, he will explain to you, it's not that the budget that they got from BICZIP changed everything, but it was an important budget and an important partnership to have the public administration on board, also to be able to be more credible with a lot of other stakeholders, because they could say that they were teaming up with the public administration when they were going to lobby for other funding with private investors and so on, which does make a difference.
The renovation of the one building without money at all. Then we got to BICZIP, but 50,000 euros, which was the money that we got from BICZIP, wasn't enough. So the process of renovation of the building was 350,000 euros. So and step by step, we started to manage to open the hostel, open one floor of the hostel. Now more and more, we have 2 areas that are commercial, the hostel and also the cafe. And more, they are going to support Largo's activities. So it's a project that, for example, could employ 15 people or from the neighborhood. So we got jobs for them. So that's that's the thing that's very valuable now at this time in Portugal. So, and we could produce a lot of also other projects. We could help other associations that were in the neighborhood, so that we could work in network a little bit.
So this was Tiago. I think at this point, maybe this could be, maybe we could, if Andrei likes, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your experience, about the story of this place, because I think not everybody knows it. No, it's not just me and Francesca not knowing it very well. Because this is a.
So this is a municipality building. If you would like to buy it, we have to pay 900,000 euros. So
100?
900,000 euros. We pay 70,000 euros per year for costs, but we don't pay any rent. So we are a community organized kind of a business house supporting social economy, cooperatives, and social innovations. So about money, we are 30,000 euros in debt right now, and that's about it. So there are three main organizations supporting this project, working in this kind of economic fields that we think that are strategically important, just like you said, social innovations. We have similar projects that you were talking about. We would surely like to connect with you. Other than that, we have a lot of new projects, and that's it. The main problems with this building is that because it is a municipality's building, we are not allowed to sub-rent it. So if we have a co-working space, we are actually, for law, not allowed to have co-working space, if you don't know what I mean. So right now we are squatting this formally, but with the okay of the municipality. So we have a lot of problems in law, not understanding what we are doing, not understanding how important are our activities. So we have a lot of friends. You were right before you were at the salon. So they are our partners, our members. So we are doing a lot of revitalizing the city with other organizations that also co-work with us on different projects. Yeah, this building, so there are three organizations, from non-governmental organizations, and one is from the municipality. This is the tourism board, agency, yes. It's 2,500 square meters. So we have like 35 offices and stuff like this. Crazy. We have a fabrication laboratory in the cellar. We have co-working spaces. We have a lot of stuff. So
how many people work?
I don't know. There were about 150 people working here, but now it's a bit less. So we have huge financial risks in being involved in this kind of project.
Was the space in good condition when you arrived here?
No, this is sorry, I didn't tell you this. This was a storage place for medical equipment with some laboratories, and everything we renovated ourselves with volunteer work.
And what is it you deal with the public administration? How long is your contract with them?
About 2 more years, I think. Yeah, or we have per law, we can use it for, I don't know how much, 3-4 years. It depends on the status of the organizations. Then we have to prolong the contract. So
5 years.
5 years. Okay. At the beginning we have this usage model and investment project. Everything, we did everything for the municipality, and we proposed this kind of use of this building because they couldn't sell it. They couldn't sell it for 3 or 4 years, and then it was embarrassing for them because they looked like losers because they couldn't sell things. So okay, we do something smart. We will give this building to the kids, and we proposed to the city council our concept of using this building. And we got 1 vote for this project, and 44 votes against. This is kind of our relationship with the politicians.
What I wanted to say is that it's not by accident that we chose Maribor, otherwise for the morning event and for, of course, for
this fund as a consequence somehow. Although it was also a political agreement, you know, the ministry was interested to go to Maribor because Maribor was ambitious in this circular stuff, whatever. And I mean, sorry, I mean, it's at the end of the day for everybody. But it's the Maribor is really full of this cooperative movement. I mean, it's been very strong in creating new cooperatives in the last 5 years, and we forgot to actually tell that we deliberately chose only cooperatives for subcontractors for this event in the morning. So the salon is a cooperative, the translators were the cooperative, the catering was also cooperative. So, and of course, Kalka for this evening event also is it's not a cooperative, but it's a social enterprise supporting the venue. And there's a lot of this happening on in Maribor, I think more than in average in Slovenia, which I would be interested to hear why. Do you have an explanation?
The easiest explanation would be that we had this European Capital of Culture project in 2012. And this was kind of a generator of kind of outside alternative kind of energy. Because the whole project was run by the mainstream, political line or something like that. Or even, but some of us participated, but in the end, there was a lot of energy left, so unused. So I don't know. This was the easy answer. It's not true. So, but Maribor is always a bit has this mentality of doing it like with the heads to the wall, because we are a second biggest city. We are a bit of how would you say smaller brother, small sister, you know, mentality. So. There are a lot of explanations. You can choose to.
But I had a conversation with Igor after the conference, and I was impressed by the at one point he said, we're not here to make money, we're here to create this system, because we are a public administration, so we have
Which Igor did you speak?
Cost.
Oh.
Of course, it took for half an hour. Like, no, it's great, and I think it's part a little bit of the culture, of the city. Like there is this. What I noticed, like just 2 days, maybe post-industrial, like some kind of aggregating culture. Like I don't know. I noticed that in his approach. Like there is not much of a we want to be big, we want to be the first, but we want to do things good mostly.
I don't know. There's a lot of architects doing strange stuff in the world. I think so.
Yeah.
This is. I mean. You're an architect.
I'm not an architect. No way.
Urban. Urban what? You are an urban. No.
Background as a researcher.
Okay.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. But so
it's okay. Don't be offended.
Yeah.
I was wondering if that's like what you also feel, like that there is this willingness to do things good. Maybe because there is a bit of competition with Ljubljana, I don't know.
No. I wouldn't say so. I think that from the municipality point of view, the mayor before this one, he was thrown out of his job through the social mobilization, but that's not the point. But the idea of Maribor, I think it was the industrial capital of Slovenia until the 80s, and then because of the industrialization and the way Slovenia was developed after the gaining independence, it was mostly focused on Ljubljana, and Maribor was like a social burden, and every social problems were just left there. And also the policy of Slovenia, how it developed, were focused towards Ljubljana and leaving the eastern part of Slovenia behind. And then mayor, especially the last mayor, wanted to also for the European cultural capital to make like a really big impress, to make like big things. So the only big thing I think that was built was huge rondo there with waterfalls. But the idea from the city, from the municipality point of view, it was we want to make big things. But because of that and because of these great initiatives that were developed, so local initiatives started to think smaller, to make smaller and more social impact projects, while the city is still thinking big. It wants to be, it wants to like make an impression against Ljubljana. So they're trying to invite huge companies. They are not thinking about companies to make, I don't know, 10 or 20 good jobs. They're thinking about companies with 1,500 lousy jobs and things like that. So the mentality from the city, from the municipality, is still to make
lousy jobs.
Well, low-paid, low-skilled jobs that are lousy for the environment and the local communities and transport. So subsidizing foreign companies to come here.
I also think that Ghana is kind of gentrified right now, so it's really hard, cost, maybe it's expensive and stuff like that. And here it's kind of outside the area where you can live cheaply and easy life, maybe a bit. And the weather is much better in Maribor.
Very good advertising.
Yeah. And next year the whole city center will be car free.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Not true.
It almost is already.
Yeah. No, but I think, I mean, in Ljubljana you have this, let's say, if I would simplify things really a lot, you have the startup, you know, kind of hype. Everybody startup something. And here I see cooperative hype, which is, I think, a bit different. I don't know how is it with the startup hype in Maribor. Probably there is, but I think somehow it's the cooperatives that you see, not the startups that are the ones that are successful. Maybe I'm exaggerating or simplifying too much.
This is a process. We are kind of in the middle of something right now. So it's hard to say if this will get to something bigger or this will die in a year or two. It's really depends. No? So the girl started to talk in Italian, so...
Sorry, we were conspiring against the Slovenians.
So can we close this?
I think
we're finished.
I think there was a lot of very interesting comments. And
are there some more comments? Questions or cases?
I said that we are on the breaking point of something, so we are waiting for the younger generation right now. So everybody that's a bit younger than me.
How about the younger generation in Maribor? I mean,
Maribor has a second university in Slovenia, but it's I think fifth city in Slovenia according to the education level. Is this logical?
The population.
The population.
The population is educated.
Yes. The height of the education of the population is about fifth in Slovenia, but we have second biggest university, so this is not logical. What we can conclude from this is that the young people are going away.
I heard that, like that. Unlike in Ljubljana, the university, where students from all over Slovenia come to Ljubljana to study, and many of them stay. In Maribor, they don't stay.
No, they go home or...
They go home or they go elsewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
So from my side, I think thanks a lot for all the input also on the Slovenian side, because I think some of the things that we were throughout the workshop and with putting together the book thinking are actually reconfirmed. And I think there is an issue for most parts of Europe of actually accessing capital. And I think there is an issue that I think is relevant to be thinking about, both in terms of civil society in collaboration also with the banking system. Because as Francesca was saying, that not all money is neutral. The way that we use it opens up connotations. And I think there is one issue that there are some projects at national level. Francesca was also just saying now that this is in the UK. This is exactly the same model also of the foundation in Germany. Basically, it's a lot of community projects being able to fund into a community fund that then can reinvest into more projects. This per se is a model that is absolutely already existing, nothing new, but the issue is, could we manage to do something that is also maybe at European level? Could this be something that we are able to organize something between ourselves, or at least at national level between different cities? I don't know, there is an issue here that is worth addressing. And in this there is one thing that we started discussing at a very initial stage, so we'll be happy hopefully to share with you with more promising information. There are very obscure branches of the European Investment Bank, which you probably label as the evil, the absolute evil. But they have a lot of branches that are actually working in the direction of social enterprises, of social impact. They are the small branches of the European Investment Bank, and they are probably the little step-sisters or brothers within the organization. So I'm not saying that it's mainstream, but they are trying to work in this direction. There are branches of the bank that are working in supporting socially oriented projects. So could it be worth for us to be starting thinking of addressing these organizations and suggesting a program that is relevant? It's worth thinking because the organizations are existing. We had some very initial introductory, from our side, introductory conversations with them, but this is also where we raise an issue of, just as Francesca was saying before, of skills. I'm an architect by training. I'm sorry.
That's why the book is about buildings.
That's why the book is about buildings, exactly. But we need to also bring together more competences in financing also. And this is where I think there are two more points that I would like to share, and then it's open for conversation and drinks if you like. There is one thing that is, we, I think, need to be able to tell about our projects also in a more understandable way, also from the outside. A lot of civic initiatives, social enterprises have a bit of difficulty in being able to evaluate themselves, and this makes it very difficult, even if there was somebody who wanted to support you financially, to be able, and you can't expect everybody to be spending 3 months of their time in mentoring you to be able to tell what you're doing in a comprehensible way in financial terms. So there is something that we have, and the thing is that we have to identify criteria that are understandable in financial terms, but are also responding to your ethics. So if you're a project that is working on social impact, that is a very relevant aspect, and this has to be also in the analysis of your own portfolio of projects and initiatives. So this is something that, for example, with an organization in the Netherlands we've been discussing now, we're looking for funding on being able to elaborate something that maybe could be a starting point. There are some things that are already available online. Could we tailor something that is maybe a little bit more specific to be helping people exactly in this? And the last thing is educational programs. We think that we have to learn a little bit more about financing, and it doesn't mean that we will be becoming a Nobel Prize in economics anytime soon, most likely not. But we are able to handle ourselves, and we are able to speak to and ask the right questions and be able to document ourselves and not just look with this very, I don't know how it worked out for you, but very often everybody shared with us this impression. I know it also from our professional work is when it comes to money and administrative issues, there's this sort of, ooh, I don't know, that's not my field. But we have to learn how to handle it, because if we don't know how to master this thing, we won't be able to do the real work on the ground that we want to do. So this is another thing, and this is going back to the discussion about Slovenia and so on. These are, a lot of things are very specific, local, maybe national legislation that allows or doesn't allow certain activities to be done. So in Italy, for example, at the moment, and in Hungary, where it's countries where we are a little bit more well networked, we've been discussing also with some financial, like the Ethical Bank in Italy or in the Ethical Bank Magnet Bank in Hungary, about trying to maybe discussing about can we set up an educational program for basic like ABC of ethical funding for civic organizations. So I don't know if this is, I think from some of the comments that were made throughout the evening, I think that maybe some fit in here. I don't know if you feel, what you don't, if you think the context here is totally different. But these were a little bit the things that we felt we would like to share with you. And if anybody's interested, we will be very happy to work on it together also in the future, because we definitely need more people, more competencies, and a better EU outreach if we want to be pushing this also at a higher institutional level. So with this, unless there are any other pressing comments from anybody, I think we could break into a more informal setting, maybe have another croissant, and I can ask you to say something exactly while you're eating, and maybe have a drink or something. Could that be?
Yes.
And thank you again.